supposed to put the agenda up?
Yes, it should be shared from my computer, is it?
Well, I'm just seeing myself at this point.
Stefan, I can see it.
Okay, yeah, Wig, I think you might need to check your check other windows. But we are online on YouTube and ready to go. So if you don't mind kicking us off, Wig.
Yeah, hi everybody. Now actually I'm looking at nothing but Zoom at the moment, so hold on. Help me out, Stefan. What do I need to do? Hold on. Gosh. Oh, there we go, I guess. I'm viewing Stefan's screen. All right, so hi everybody. I'm not sure what the audience looks like, but this is Wig Zamor, and Stefan Wunsch and I are starting I guess a 6-month turn as co-chairs of the ROC, the Rider Oversight Committee. And we generally have 8 or so official members of the ROC with 3 meetings per month. This is the main meeting, and we're featuring the GLX project for the first time at the MBTA ROC this month. And we're doing that for a number of reasons. One, the project is really in full swing. It's very visible in the corridors. It's visible in Leachmere. A lot of steel going up, a lot of concrete already going up, or has gone up, and tracks have been moved, and they're kind of in the middle of sculpting what will be the final geography and the final geometrics of the project. So it's an interesting time to do that. And as folks probably know, the project also includes completion of the regional community path from Lexington, Bedford, through Somerville, intersecting with Green Line stations, and then getting to North Point and able to use the crossing from North Point to North Station to connect up not just with North Station, but with the Charles Dudley White paths on the Boston side of the Charles River and the Cambridge paths on the Cambridge side. So a real addition to sustainable transportation, both rail-based with the Green Line, but also walking and biking, including great regional interconnections. So usually we see if there's some public comments at the beginning. Stefan, does that make sense for you too?
Yep, absolutely. I have one attendee who is a call-in person. So I'm going to have to allow them to speak because they're on a telephone connection only. So I'm not sure if they want to speak without adding them to speak. So hello, folks on the phone with a phone number ending in 7495. Would you like to make any public comments at this kickoff period of the meeting? If not, you're welcome to.
This is Barry.
Oh, Barry, excellent. Barry is like an honorary member of the Rider Oversight Committee, so I'm going to put your name in on your Zoom presence.
No comment at this time.
Okay, cool. And then, as you know, Barry, we're going to have another session for public comment at the end.
Thank you.
Mind if I mute you again, Barry?
Excuse me?
Do you mind if I mute you again?
No comment at this time. We'll see later.
Okay. No, go ahead, Stefan.
Yep.
Barry will be fine. So let's see here. I still have something blocking my agenda, but
I just wanted to comment that one of the attendees has stated that he can't hear us over the background noise. I'm not sure what the background noise is, where we're all muted, but that still is an issue for Martin Nee.
Yeah. And I think Stefan is going to mute everybody except for speakers. But thank you, Amy.
I would suggest that Martin maybe log out and log back in. Has he tried that already? Like just trying to connect again?
I was gonna say, I don't hear any background noise on
No,
my,
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't either. So I think it's on Martin's end. So maybe if he could just log out
Yeah,
and
I
log
don't
back
hear any
in.
background noise either. Oh, he heard us.
Okay, and so we've got current members of the ROC, and we've got two former members who have been rejoining, which is absolutely terrific. In Amy, who just spoke, and also I thought I saw, oh, and Bonnie's here too, who's a great commuter rail representative on the ROC as well. So, but I think unless there's further comments from people, that we should just go right into the GLX presentation. Does that make sense, Stefan?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, and who's gonna, Terry, you gonna do that?
Yep.
Or-
I'm going to facilitate, and between Marty, Jeff, and I, we may kind of jump into different areas where their expertise is good, or if I forget to mention something, they'll jump in and speak to some talking points that are important. Can I just simply share my screen? Is that the
Yep, screen sharing is enabled for you. So yes, please do.
okay?
I might have to stop though. So let me stop my screen sharing just so you
Okay.
we're not conflicting. There, I've stopped, so it should be all yours.
Okay.
I forgot to hit record on the Zoom as our backup, so I'm going to do that now. So you'll hear the automated voice say now recording.
Okay. Can everyone see my PowerPoint on the screen?
No,
No. Okay.
Make sure you choose the screen that you want to share and then actually hit the blue button to activate it.
Yeah, let me.
It's a two-step.
All right. Oh, you're seeing my email screen.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me. How about that? Oh, no. Sorry, I'm gonna have to do it a different way. All right. Escape. And stop sharing. And start sharing. And is that better?
No, we were seeing your PowerPoint there for a moment, and then you said you had to go through a different way. So
How
There
about
we-
now?
yeah, yep,
Still can see it?
yep,
Yeah.
that's
All right.
great. That's
It
great.
should be the green line train number 3668.
It is.
All
Looks
right.
good.
Okay. So actually quite excited to talk to you folks tonight because I was part of a team with the Secretary's office and the General Manager's office to develop virtual public meetings. The GLX project had a public meeting scheduled for March 10th, and that was just a week before COVID basically took over all our lives. And so we had to start working with developing virtual meetings. We started off using GoToMeeting, and this presentation I'm going to make tonight was a GoToWebinar format. And we started off the meeting basically thanking our partners in the project, the cities, our community working group, state delegations. We also thanked the impacted abutters. One thing we always want to recognize at GLX is we do realize we're very disruptive to the lives of people in Cambridge, Somerville, and Medford, but it is the price we all pay to bring light rail transit to the area. So we acknowledge that the COVID-19, we're all in it together, and that's why we've switched to having public meetings virtually. Part of the meeting was to thank all the essential workers, first responders. I also cited the MBTA bus operators and train operators continue to work through the COVID-19, as well as recognize that a lot of people don't think about grocery workers, box stores, even simple things like collecting trash, and the DPW workers who respond to a water main are out there. So we wanted to acknowledge that. And we, offer sympathy for anyone who's lost someone or is caring for someone with COVID. And one of the things that was unique about the GLX project, it was deemed a state essential infrastructure project that had to move forward by the governor, as well as other large state projects. So basically 400 of craft personnel had to continue their work on a daily basis. We developed training programs, education on social distancing, mask wearing. Most of you all know what the handy houses or porta potties look like. Well, now on the job site, every one of those have a hand washing station next to them where you can actually wash your hands with soap and water. It's a big tank that you can pump. So there were a lot of cultural changes on our websites. Just as a point of fact, on the GLX project, we've had 6 confirmed cases of COVID. All 6 people have returned to work. We're very lucky we've had 0 deaths, but we have had supply chain issues occur where a company that would say supply rebar to the GLX project at their facility, several people were diagnosed with COVID and they shut down for a 2-week period while they do their cleaning and contact tracing efforts.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that Martin could hear. Well, yeah, it seems like it. Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, and I always like to run meetings with a discussion and dialogue. So feel free to stop me if you have a question or need any type of clarification.
Thank you. I forgot to ask your preference at the beginning, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you.
Jeff, Marty, and I usually like a dialogue. We run the monthly community working group meetings, so we're used to that format. So we acknowledge that we hear everyone on concerns about nighttime noise, early starts in the morning, train horns, vibration issues, and we have a machine, a multi-purpose machine, which I'll show you a picture of, and I'll actually show you a video of the work it does. But it is disruptive, and we encourage everyone to stay in communication with the GLX project through like a webinar or chat like we have tonight. And we have a voicemail set up, which Marty Nee gets to be the guy who handles voicemail. And we have an info@glxinfo.com email where anyone can send us a comment, a concern, or complaint. And one thing that working with the Secretary's office and the GM's office on public commenting and how we accept it, we are looking to have a similar format to the FMCB board, where we may have a structured public comment period. We didn't do it at this virtual meeting, but next one we will have some element of that. And at the meeting, basically John Dalton, myself, and Jeff, and Marty certainly helps facilitate questions and the like, presented the meeting. And John went through most of this information where I know a lot of folks are familiar with the project. It'd be a little redundant, but it's still good to go through. So always like to present that the roots of the GLX project goes all the way back to the Central Artery Tunnel project. The commitment for the GLX project is to reduce motor vehicle congestion and improve air quality, which they both go hand in hand. And that was a commitment of constructing the Central Artery Tunnel project. And this is the project map. As you can see, we have 2 branch lines. The Union Square branch is the shorter branch, and that comes into Leachmere Station. And then we have the Medford branch, which runs to basically Tufts University. It actually at one time was called the College Ave Station, but probably about a year ago, between the city of Medford and Tufts, they renamed the station to Medford Tufts. So there's
Could I interrupt here for 1 second? Yep. So a lot of the folks on the Rock haven't really followed the project carefully. So I just want to point out that at some distant point in the future, the Union Square station could be extended to Porter, which would really improve the interconnectability. There's a power station in Union Square that have to be dealt with. And then I'm sure you'll mention the second leg past Medford Tufts at some point, so I won't go into that.
Well, no, we can stay with that, Wig. I'm glad you mentioned that. One of the missions or commitments of the present GLX project is to not preclude extending the Union Square branch all the way to Porter to make a red line and a commuter rail connection, as well as extending from the Medford Tufts station to another station out by Route 16.
Right.
And we're not doing anything at Medford Tufts that would preclude that. The only thing I caution everybody against, there is that power substation that would need to be either relocated or reconstructed, reconfigured, as well as there are bridges where bridge abutments would be need to be adjusted. But we have that on the present project now, so it's not something we're not used to doing, adjusting the bridge width. So
and then the alewife, the extension, well, I call it alewife, that's incorrect. The extension past Medford Tufts would get within walking distance of Mass Ave in Arlington. So it kind of brings in another community too, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Now both those projects are I believe they're part of Focus 40, but they're in future planning. A lot of the work's already been done in the planning. That will need continued advocacy to move forward.
Right. And the extension from Medford Tufts has gone through pretty robust environmental already. Not the one to Porter Square, but the one that gets close to Arlington is.
Right. I believe that was part of the Fonzie and alike, and included
Right.
Yes, you're correct, Wig. The connection from Union to Porter will need a significant constructability review
Right.
assessment. So,
Terry, quick
And-
question about the noise. Since you have the map up,
oh yeah, Yep.
where currently is the locus of the noise being generated? Is it all along the line, or is it sort of like a traveling like circus where the noise is concentrated in one area for 1 week and then the noisy area is further down the line for the next week, or is it all over the place?
I'm gonna. It's everywhere because we're doing different construction activities. Someplace we're building walls, some types we're putting platforms together. You know who I'll ask to make maybe a quick comment on that is Jeff Wagner, because he handles a lot of the issues. He deals with vibration and noise, and I don't know if there's a real specific hotspot we could identify, but Jeff, do you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah, I will, Terry. Thanks. Yeah, we tend to get to the point where we're really on people's, last nerve is about the time, thankfully, we're usually able to move to a different location, it seems. But like, especially last year with the project and early on this year, we had not fully moved the commuter line rail over to its final position. So that posed a lot of construction challenges where we needed to have night work in order to get rail time or time out on the track so we could work. And I know one community specifically, like between School Street and Central Street, we were banging out granite in order to be able to put in drainage. So because we hadn't completed the shift, that work needed to be done first. That really was several months of overnight work that was very loud, and we recognized that. And we heard about it at our fall or winter public meeting, certainly. But now that we've got the commuter line shifted over to the east side, we still have a lot of night work, but it's not at least I think as obstructive as what we've had. But a lot of times, as Terry mentioned, the MPM will be out at night. Work such as placing concrete retaining wall panels, now steel noise wall panels can be done at night. Some other work where we have shifts that we can do night work. We've tried to progress wall work, et cetera. But I think it's somewhat cyclical. It depends on what's happening with the project, and sometimes just when we have the availability, the manpower and materials.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten in? Oh, I'm sorry. Just one follow-up quick thing. Have you ever gotten any feedback from the nearby residents saying, "Hey, it's really much better," or "Hey, you listened to my comment about the noise, and now it's not as bad as it had been"? Is there that kind of a feedback loop ever happened?
A lot of times when we tell them what they're hearing and why they're hearing it, that helps them understand. And we try to be as responsive as possible, because I think the most frustrating thing for a neighbor would be to call and not hear anything. So we try, between Terry, Marty, myself, and Aaron on our team, try to get right back. And a lot of times when we can explain it and give them a date where we think things will wrap up, really does go a long way with helping.
One activity that has extremely helped in this, and Jeff is phenomenal at this, as well as Marty. We get out and do, and it's really Jeff's effort, door knocker notifications when we're going to do particularly noisy work, or we have an operation that's going to be running 24/7 for a few weeks. So one thing we find, and Jeff put it, when we explain things to people and we get back to them, they do really appreciate that happening. So
you're right. Advance notice is critical on something
yeah.
like when we can find out and when it's an extended campaign. But We
Yeah.
often find out we'll be working one night here, then another night up, at by College Ave, and then Union Square. So we do tend to bounce around sometimes too, depending, like I said, on what needs to be done over that night.
Mhm. Okay. Moving to the next slide. Just kind of the summary fact sheet that we try to remind everybody about, that there's 7 light rail stations being constructed. It's 4.7 miles of track that will be installed. And we have 5 stations on the Medford branch and 1 on Union Square. We have our environmental commitments that we're working very hard to meet, and we have a full funding grant agreement with FTA, which is close to just shy of $1 billion of financing out of the 2.3 billion for the program budget. As part of the project, we're constructing the community path. We needed to purchase 24 new Green Line light rail vehicles because we're taking on an additional 4.7 miles of track. We needed to increase the Green Line fleet. Some of you may have read about these vehicles. They're called our number 9 cars, and they certainly are more advanced than the present cars we have. Also, part of the GLX project is building a vehicle maintenance facility. And it's interesting, in cost reductions and things, they almost did away with the vehicle maintenance facility, which from an operational point of the MBTA, that would have left the area being about 14 miles away from the nearest maintenance facility, which would have been problematic on bringing good service. And so the total program budget is around 2.3 billion. As you know, it was trending towards 3.2, 3.4 billion, and we had to make drastic cuts to get the project within the program budget. And we like to just show the map after, we've discussed all that. And before we move on, just wanted to point out that the GLX project is being built in existing commuter rail corridors. So we did not have to do any type of at-grade crossings. We didn't have to do large tracts of land takings or taking homes. I know in past projects or past history of Boston, Boston's West End had a really dramatic cut to it to put the elevated highways in. And so these large projects, trying to do the best we can in the future, not to displace too many folks. And the GLX project is a true win-win on that element of bringing the project.
Terry, quick question about the maintenance facility. Am I correct that even within the Innerbelt Road area and in Cobble Hill area, there's still no grade crossings in there for Green Line at all, right? Am I correct that all the Green Line viaducts are above?
All the Green Line vehicles, none of them make an at-grade crossing with vehicle traffic. No, not like Com Ave or Beacon Street. The only crossing that occurs is at the stations, because they're center platform stations. You do have a pedestrian crossing that's involved at a few of the stations, but no, there's no at-grade crossings and no motor vehicle interface.
Excellent.
Yeah. So we sometimes call these the cartoons. These are the configurations of the corridor. Before GLX started, we had the commuter rail. This is the New Hampshire line looking north. So Jeff was very much right. We had to take the commuter rail. We kind of cleaned up in fall of 2018, and then we had to move the commuter rail more to the center part of the corridor. And on the east side, we had extensive drainage and wall work that we had to construct. So this summer, which was already completed, we've moved the commuter rail completely onto the east side. And on the west side, where you see that backhoe, is where the green line track will be, and that's what we're constructing now. And so we'll have, over the next 2020 into 2021, we'll be constructing retaining walls and drainage. And then as we get into spring or so of 2021, we'll start completing stations and track areas. So in the bottom kind of cartoon area, we show the community path, the two light rail green line cars, and how the center platform. When I was talking about the at grade or the grade crossing, passengers will need to cross over the tracks to get to the center platform in a few stations. Some of the stations, the entrance to the station is, say, off a bridge, and it comes right down into the platform. But this is the final configuration that we'll see.
What's the current best guess for when the interruptions to the commuter rail service are going to be done? I know that it's minimal at this point, but I know there's still a few interruptions.
Right. The pretty much from here on out, interruptions will solely occur on weekends, and they will, as we get into fall, and they will become intermittent, where it might need to occur, say, one weekend a month. So now, and I know your organization deals with the MBTA in its entirety. We will be renovating the Winchester station, so there will be adjustments in the commuter rail along that. So I don't want to totally say, oh, yep, New Hampshire line's all set, Lowell line's all set. We won't, but it's going to become minimal, or actually standard of all our commuter rail lines. But I think that's the best answer I can give, that it should get better and better as we go forward. So anything else before I move to the next slides? Okay, hearing none. One of the big undertakings or mitigation elements that we had to take on was Leachmere Station. The existing Leachmere Station had to shut down in order for us to build the new Leachmere Station. So we had to put a bus diversion in place, replacement service. Sometimes we refer to it as the bus bridge. So the dedicated shuttle bus you see here runs in a dedicated bus lane. And there was a lot of support from the community wanting to have dedicated bus lanes. And it was quite an undertaking working with all the state agencies and municipalities to get that to happen. And so far it's been running well, but our ridership is lower now than it was pre-COVID. But it was a real key accomplishment to get that bus replacement in service. And it allowed us to start the demolition of the viaduct. These pictures are a little older. If anybody has driven by, we now actually have the support columns in and precast beams and some structural steel already running through the corridor. So we're making good progress in that respect. And this is a picture of after, excuse me. Just take a little drink.
Yeah, so
This is a picture
go ahead.
from on top of building, looking at the old or the existing Leachmere Station with the demoed section that once went over on Senior O'Brien, and the steel that you see in the picture. There's a gentleman kneeling over tying some rebar. That's the new Leachmere Station. So it's pretty dramatic photo of seeing the old and the new being built. Go ahead, do you have a question?
No, if you were going to take some water, I was just going to fill in a little bit. And that Leachmere bus station, it's a temporary station, right? It's like the earthquake houses in San Francisco. It's lasted a very long time for what was intended to be a short-lived facility.
Yeah.
So it's, it's already, the clock is still working, but the bus schedules aren't quite working. And so people can see the transition pretty clearly at this point.
Yeah, no, it was, took a lot of coordination to make sure the bus routes that were servicing Leachmere would continue. Part of the relocation of the new Leachmere station is a new bus loop, which the buses will enter off of Water Street into a new bus loop system. So the, I call it the bus barn or bus garage, all of that will go away in that area. And if you First Street will continue straight through. The developers of Cambridge Crossing have a development plan where North First Street, which they've constructed, will connect into First Street in Cambridge.
That's a really important, really important point. Excuse me. So where the most forward bus here is, that will be a cross street connecting basically Kendall to North Point.
Right.
Crossing.
Right. Yep. And one of our big accomplishments this year, because it was a real big undertaking, was the Broadway Bridge in Somerville. It's actually on the Somerville-Medford line. And it was shut down for a little more than a year. It was a significant undertaking. Also, if you look in this picture, you see the people working on a roof. That's actually a traction power substation to run the new Green Line catenary system. It's the power cables above. And this is the Washington Street Underpass, which we opened up at the end of May. We purposely put this picture in heavy rain. One of the things we greatly improved in this area is the drainage. This bridge actually used to flood out underneath, and it also was a little too low for tractor trailer trucks and alike to go through. And we, by restructuring the bridge, actually now have almost a 15-foot clearance going underneath that bridge. So it was important to kind of show it in the rain and how much.
Yeah. Wow, almost 15 feet. Wasn't the old clearance like barely 12? That's
yes,
astounding.
yes, it was. And
I didn't realize that. Wow.
13.6 is vehicle requirement, and 14 feet is what most bridges shoot for. And we were able to get 15. And I was actually talking with Marty today when we were driving around that we want to make sure that no one's permitted to bring larger material through there without checking all the other bridge heights in the area. So, but it's all a good thing, and it worked out well. One other point: the MBTA, the GLX project, was required to demo the viaduct. Well, the MBTA saw an opportunity to rehabilitate the existing concrete arch viaduct. Where my cursor is, this is Land Boulevard and Gilmore Bridge area, and all along the viaduct to Leverett Circle, we will be rehabilitating and strengthening the bridge for two basic reasons: to get the correct headways of the new GLX. We'll be able to run multiple cars, as well as it is the MBTA's future plan to purchase what they call the number 10 car, which will be a much higher capacity vehicle. So while GLX was being constructed, we saw an advantage to do the viaduct rehab work at the same time. So there's been some good planning and thought into the projects. And on the night of the public meeting, I mentioned earlier our MPM machine, which really is what's made a lot of this work happen. This is just the front locomotive, and then there's, I don't know, 8 or 10 cars attached to it. And this backhoe that you see on it actually runs on a rail and can run all along the length of this. It's a pretty impressive piece of equipment, but I thought I'd give you a little ride in the front seat of the MPM. Can everyone see the video?
Yep.
Looks
All
good.
right. I'll speed it up a little bit because there's areas that are slow, but I'll be your little tour guide. And as we move along here, we're leaving the 200 Innerbelt area. And to our left is where the East Somerville Station will be constructed. You can see some of the wall panels there. And this is the Washington Street Underpass that we were just looking at. And there goes an MBTA bus underneath. And over on this side on the left will be the light rail Green Line cars. So I'm going to just speed up a little bit. This is the Cross Street Bridge, and on our right are new walls that we've constructed as part of the project. And this, right now, we're going underneath, is the McGrath Highway Bridge. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. You can see that the retaining wall panels, and on top of these panels will be noise panels. So the bottom panels retain earth, and the top panels will be noise panels, hopefully retaining noise. What we're coming up on right now is the Medford Street Bridge, and on the upper left is Somerville High School. Well, at the base of Somerville High School will be the Gilman Square Station in Somerville, and there'll be an interconnection with the community path and the high school. To our right is where the Holman's building was located that we demolished. If you haven't seen the video of the demolition, I'll be glad to get it to you. And this is the School Street Bridge. I'll speed up a little bit. So on our right, you'll see the Rogers Foam facility, manufacturing facility in Somerville. And we're coming up on the Maxwell Green area. This is the Visiting Nurses Association. And just on the, oh, they slowed down. We're gonna ask the fellow right here to step back. This is the Magoon Square station that's being constructed.
And Terry, right by the VNAs where you got your community path tie-in.
Right. Yeah, so that's where it has ended until this project, and now this project will connect it to Cambridge Crossing, Charles River at North Station, which is phenomenal from a regional biking and walking point of view.
And this is the Somerville DPW and retaining wall system that we constructed. A lot of unique engineering undertakings. That retaining wall system had to be incorporated into existing foundations and making sure nothing gets disturbed while we do that work. And coming up is the Broadway Bridge, which is newly reconstructed. And to our left here is the Ball Square Station. And the building where I showed people doing roofing work, that's this building to the left, which is the traction power substation for the Green Line. We have 3 power substations, one near Leachmere called Red Bridge, and another one at Gilman Station, which is called the Pearl Street Power Substation. And this brings us up to an area called the Tufts Interlock, which the vehicle can't go past that. But this bridge in front of us is the College Ave Bridge, and that's where the Medford Tufts Station is going to be constructed. Okay. Any questions about the tour and the MPM?
In case folks on the committee haven't seen them before, the MassDOT and the project folks put out very detailed PDFs. The role plans, it's a set of 4 PDFs.
Yep.
I can share them with you guys later if folks on the committee haven't seen them. I was actually scrolling through the PDFs, following along as we were watching that video, and that was actually very insightful to be able to see the video from the track level as I'm looking at the role plan blueprints.
Oh, great.
Quick question about crossovers. It seems like there's really only about a half a dozen crossovers for the Green Line on the entire length, all the way from Leachmere. Is that about right?
Yep.
We have actually about 27 switches, but the crossovers occur at the end stations for the terminus points, and then there's a crossover system where between East Somerville Station, Union Square branch, and Medford branch, there is a tremendous amount of switching to get vehicles from the main line tracks into the VMF yard where vehicles will be stored at night. But there's no turnarounds or anything like that, and switching is mainly limited to junctions where the branches meet and at terminus points.
Right. Yeah. The reason I was asking about that is I'm just curious if there is any design in there for having, you know, say a particular switch fails, you know, frozen in winter or what have you.
Yeah.
Is there an alternate path around a failed switch or a fouled interlocking where service could sort of loop around, or is it pretty much every switch is required to be working all the time?
Yeah. No, there are scenarios where we could run what we call single track service, but we try to avoid that as much as possible. And frozen switches and things like that, we unfreeze them. The solution is to fix the switch as quickly as possible.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's we do occasionally have that, and we do. We look at two alternatives. Is there, if we do not have a large ridership, we could utilize some type of single track and work around. Or if not, we need to get out there and fix it right away and get service back online. So, all right.
I jumped the gun and assumed Stefan was asking about the road intersections, but that showed a lack of knowledge of Stefan's character, which is really focused on the rail and all the tech. And I just wanted to mention that those road bridges, those are the colonial layout of Somerville. 90% of the cross streets in Somerville don't go across because of the tracks, the regional tracks. And those 6 or so cross streets are the ones that were laid out by the original surveyors of the city.
Okay.
They're called rangeways. I mean, that can tell you how long ago it was.
I hate to be dominating all the Q&A parts, but I've got a couple more things to ask, as is my nature. Anyone else want to ask things before I continue to monopolize the conversation?
Go ahead, Stefan.
Okay, well, the big question that came up in our subcommittee was about what exactly is required to be able to open up anything, including Leachmere and beyond. Because if we understand it right from what we've learned from various folks, that there's no crossover in the Leachmere area that can be used. So if we understand it right, the plan is to open up Union Square in order that Leachmere can be open. So they're sort of interdependent because of the way the track configuration is. Is that true? And is that the only big requirement for one component on another?
No, we are not bound. We could open Leachmere Station and run it effectively with what we call tail storage past the station, even though it couldn't cross over. This happens at many terminus points. If you bring vehicles up past the terminus point, then bring them back through for boarding and moving forward, then the crossover would occur at the North Station area. So we can operate Leachmere Station. In a perfect world, we would do system testing and bringing it as much online as we can that is ready to bring rail service online. You have a a whole testing and commissioning phase. And then you have what we call pre-revenue testing. That's a 60-day period in which if there's any major issues or problems, you have to repair those problems, and that 60-day period has to actually start again. So there's a lot of pre-revenue testing before something could move forward. And why I say that, if an issue or problem was, say, at Union Square Station, you could still operate just with Leachmere Online. That's not our intent, but does that answer your question on?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And it would be a simple element of like I said, the terms tail storage. So, okay.
And the only other question I wanted to ask, which was a little bit nuts and bolts, was when the time comes for the MBTA to kick off that the bridge span replacement, which is just adjacent to the FX commuter rail interlocking, where the just below where Eastern route goes off from the Western route, which is just north of BET. When that bridge span gets replaced, if I understand it right, that's immediately right next door to the new maintenance facility and right next to Inner Belt Road and Cobble Hill. I was just curious if there's any risk of any negative impact on GLX, the maintenance facility, et cetera, from that commuter rail bridge span, which is on the New Hampshire route.
Right. No, it's not. I could see how folks could be concerned with that impact, but it won't impact the vehicle maintenance facility or the VET. There shouldn't be any issues when that work has to occur.
That's very reassuring.
Actually, as we move forward, now this is in the future of bringing the number 10 cars into service, you will actually see areas that will need to be adjusted simply for bringing the cars in. So there'll be work going on in that area well into the future. I believe it's the number 10 yard and number 10 lead and 21 lead we've rehabilitated as part of the project. So there'll be a lot more in the future. So Jeff Wagner gave a great construction update, and I see we're got about 10 minutes or so left. Jeff, do you want to talk to some of the slides and we can go through them?
Yeah, we can go over the 15-minute mark if you want, if there's interest.
Okay, well, if you're, yep. All right, Jeff, I'll let you take away the show then.
Sure, I think we'll move at a pretty good clip though, and so much does change though. Even like I said, these photos are probably a month old, and we were just out a week ago and got newer photos that really look good. But again, that's one of the neat things about this project. The landscape changes so quickly. So one of the things Terry touched on was the COVID-19, and we've really got our workers, I think, since March, have done a good job of getting used to the new normal with the face masks, either a face shield, a mask, some kind of face covering, basically being cautious of that, how close they are to others. Got a lot of additional, as Terry mentioned, hand wash stations out there, in addition to all the sanitizing stations that have been out there before. Got a couple people dedicated that were hired to do nothing but, ensure that we follow the COVID safety requirements, and make sure just that our workers and our subcontractors stay safe. during all this. So we have had some impacts, but we really were fortunate that we were able to move forward during this. Terry, next slide. So we're actually real close now. We're a few percentage points up from this, close to really 50% complete at this point with the systems, on target to open up December of next year. We have 400 workers, and we expect that will increase up to 500 through the summer as we begin work, the detail work, especially at the stations. A lot of the work on the commuter line side of the track where we did the shift, involved, drainage and other work. Now that we've got commuter line shifted over, we, on the west side, we have drainage work still, not nearly as much. We're cutting into those hillsides, a lot of which are even more bigger hillsides than on the east side. So we've got wall construction that's taking place there. And the stations, all 7 stations are taking shape in some fashion. And we've got a lot of track work going on. And then still on the east side, we're dropping in retaining wall and noise wall panels. So a lot of work going on both sides of the track. Okay, Terry, if you would. This is just a good example. This is looking north on Cedar Street. You can see how conditions looked in April 2018. A lot of standing water there on the right side of the photo. There were drainage challenges throughout. The middle photo is after the track shift, and you can see that the trees were taken out, the walls were put in, and the rail was moved tight against that right side. And the photo on the far right then shows now where we're starting to drill for retaining wall foundations on the left side, or here what would be the west side of the alignment. So just kind of shows the work that's taken place in one area, but it's pretty indicative of what's happened throughout. Next slide.
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
So some of the biggest impacts we had on the community were the closing of streets, Washington Street and Broadway in particular. Glad to see those reopened. A lot of work is still occurring on Bedford Street. School Street is closed right now. That's also getting a modification, but Lowell, Cedar, College, those are all bridges that we can work on without really closing the bridge or significantly impacting traffic. There may be an occasional lane closure, something like that, but for the most part, we can work beneath the bridge and do the work that's needed to widen the alignment to get the green line under, through the area. Next slide. Again, just a couple quick comparison photos of Washington Street. Go ahead, Terry, next slide. It shows you the other angle of that. I missed the wooden railing up on top of the Washington Street rail overpass. That was a nice touch. And for those of you who used to ride their bikes or walk underneath that bridge, you always wanted to hustle up before the new construction because it just looked a little fragile or a little old while you were walking underneath. So
you're being so generous, Jeff.
Yeah. So we're
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
On the May 31st photo, Wiggs hiding somewhere in the shadows. I can tell.
Yeah, I remember him being out there.
Yeah.
And it will be really nice when we get those sidewalks opened up. Right now, we just have a Jersey barrier and kind of a temporary access through there. It's not really wide, but when we get those the full sidewalks open, that'll be really nice for walkers, bikers, others going through that area.
Yeah, and this bridge was the road was going to be opened up, and then there was going to be a second construction period, and the constructors and the community, I think, both universally backed just going right through to completion, and that got it open a little earlier, I believe. But also, if you look at the contrast in these pictures, you can see how how much bigger the structure is currently. And it's even more visible if you're there in person. And that's especially true, I would say, in the Leachmere area, where the steel spans are really, I think, something that's grander than was expected. I mean, they're a real presence in the landscape.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really good point about not going through that second or that phased approach.
Yeah.
By working straight through, we were able to save a lot of time because there is a lot of work getting the roadway ready to temporarily open that back up, only to turn around again and shut it down for another
Right.
6 months and then go through the same thing again. So it was definitely a time saver on the schedule. Go ahead, Terry, next slide. I think we got a couple Broadway Bridge photos. Again, you can see how dramatically wider the area is for the commuter line, and then over to the right where the green line will be. So, and I think we got another photo there, Terry. Yeah, that's just from the top of the deck. Not as dramatic as when it's fully going to be open, but workers today are out there working on all the tie-in pieces. Again, pouring concrete for the sidewalks, getting ready to power any of the other utilities that are underneath that bridge, getting everything cinched up, basically. Okay. And it kind of shows, in addition to Broadway and School Street, or Washington Street, we talked about School Street. The modification will basically be, we're taking the existing abutment that's on the Montrose side, and we're drilling closer to Montrose. So we're drilling a new abutment, and then we're keeping the old abutment and making that into a center. So that's we're doing the same thing at Medford Street. In fact, if you happen to be on Sycamore or School Street, you can see now the opening, the channel that we've created, basically behind the old abutment to give enough room for one line of the green line to go in there. So it's pretty tight confines to be working, but it's it's an effective way to create more space and basically extend those two bridges. And
hey Jeff, so speaking of tight confines, are there any locations where the access to the station has to be delaying the building of a retaining wall so that the equipment can get from the nearest street down into the station construction area, and then the retaining walls are the very last thing to go up? And I'm just wondering about the order of operations and what might block what.
Yeah, for the most part, it's drainage and retaining walls first that we've worked on, and I think like Lowell Street may be a good example that you're talking about. Like right by Maxwell's Green, we basically have created we've built the wall in there, and it's a pretty tight corridor that we've had to create. That'll be the pedestrian access. That'll be between the bridge and the wall for Maxwell's Green. So what we had to do there, we went in there, put in a pretty sizable retaining wall. Now we only have the H piles in there. I don't think we've put in the permanent wall panels yet, but you can easily see where that's going to be now. So that's one, I think, really good example. Probably another good example there for the East Somerville Station, right behind Cataldo, right next to the bridge, where we've had to again put in the retaining wall to allow pedestrian access then to get through to the station. And so then these are so then the example for Lowell there on the bottom, you can see where there are two sets of H piles that are creating both the retaining wall and the additional access that we need for the rail line underneath the station, or underneath the bridge. I'm sorry. Okay, Terry.
All right.
And so So as I mentioned, the stations, the 7 stations are in different stages of development, anywhere from about 10% to more than 30% complete. The Union Square station is the one that's furthest along. So if you get up on Prospect Street, you look down, you can really see that that taking shape. And I imagine we'll start, in addition to the platform there, that's very well developed. I'm sure you'll start seeing some of the upright structures there as well soon. But that kind of lays out the schedule for station construction that will continue all the way through this year and into the early part of 2021. So those come together pretty quickly. Consigli's doing a nice job for us on those. Go ahead, next slide. I think we got just some quick snapshots. As Terry mentioned, Leachmere is an elevated station. The Union Square station, again, this was a month ago. This has really started to take shape even more. There's the East Somerville station on the bottom left that's next to Washington Street rail overpass. And that's really moving along. And then we're just really getting the foundation work there below the high school for Gilman Square, right next to School Street. And then the other.
I just wanted to jump in for just 2 seconds. If you have a chance to drive by on Prospect Street, you can see down on the Union Square station, and it's very much more developed, but you can see the platform, the tactile, you can see where the canopies are going to go up. So if anyone's in that area, take a drive over the Prospect Street Bridge, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
So
it really is. So yeah, go ahead, Terry, next slide. And then again, the Magoon Square, that's right next to Maxwell's Green. You can see the H piles for the wall there. Let's see, Ball Square, as Terry mentioned, the traction power substation. And then the foundation work is really starting to take shape there at Ball Square. And then Medford Tufts, I was just out there today. I thought that was coming along, and it looks like they're banging out some more rock while I was up there. So wall work has been so significant in that area. I thought I saw we're certainly running utilities in all these areas to get them to the stations. And then once the utilities are in place, then we start framing up the platform, and then begin with the concrete work and then building the support structures next to it. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think we took a step back at Medford Tufts this week, but a challenge.
To your point, Stefan, that's an example on Boston Ave. If you're familiar with the area up by Nick's Pizza, which is near the Winthrop Street Bridge, we have a ramping system going down into the site that will be removed as we proceed forward.
Hey, that's exactly what I was wondering about. Yeah, so that construction access ramp is probably the last thing to go.
Yeah.
If there was any need to hold up and keep that access ramp in place for additional construction work, would that prevent the line from opening? I mean, in other words, does that construction access ramp impinge on the track right of way?
No, it would need to come out, because past the Medford Tufts station, we will have terminus storage. So there'll be 3 or 4 cars past the station. Our intent is not to store cars all through places throughout. Most of the cars would be stored at the yard facilities at the VMF. But during winter time or storm time, we may store a vehicle to do the early morning rollout or snow removal equipment past the station. So the tracks will go beyond the Medford Tufts. And that's actually, that track area is, if they do ever extend, it would be an extension up to Route 16. So the ramping will have to come out. So,
Got it. Thank you.
Terry, just to add to that, if you had to get a construction vehicle in after the ramp was out and the tracks were laid, you could certainly get them in and out of there very easily using High Rail, correct?
Correct. What we do at the next station down at Ball Square, we have a driveway that part of it we share with the Sphere apartment buildings. We have a driveway that will lead to the Ball Square station area, and there will be a truck pad, is what we call it. It basically is a paved area, and the track runs through it. But in that paved area, when we have to do repairs or maintenance or possible construction work, we will use that pad and we will drive up to Medford Tufts in High Rail vehicles to do work. And if we were to do construction beyond that, we would either build other areas where there's High Rail access. In Medford past the Winthrop Street Bridge off of Canal Street, just before Route 16, there is a set of truck pad locations for commuter rail access. So we have access points that we make available just for basic operation and maintenance. So
that's really good news to me. So, but as far as what's planned for PLX, is that Ball Square truck pad is the most northerly one that's going to be at least planned as far as this build out? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. But that sounds great.
Yep.
Yeah, Terry, go to the next slide if you would. So I'm going to quickly go through this again. I got a compliment Atlantic demo. They did such a terrific job of taking down the old viaduct, and there was a lot of pre-planning, obviously, that GLXC did with the MBTA and Atlantic to do that. Literally, they had scheduled, I think, weekends over a couple months that they could get it done, and they were basically everything was done in 2 weekend closures. So they did a terrific job. We came in there first with MBTA, had to power down everything, and that was a very basically well-planned, methodical operation, because you definitely wanted to make sure everything was powered down correctly. When you took down the catenary lines, you didn't want to place undue stress on the poles throughout, and then, suddenly, have an issue with lines coming down. So just that first weekend was really well done at midnight when they shut everything down. And then we came in, we cleared all the track off, the ballast off, basically had the decks ready for demolition. And then go ahead, if you would, Terry, to like the next couple slides, just show some photos of the demo work that took place there. There you can see where they basically went through first, pounded out the concrete decking, got rid of, put up a barrier, continued to move it along Avalon Bay and all the apartments nearby to keep any debris, rocks from flying off. And then they went and they pre-cut the steel, created grab points for the cranes to then come in and basically pull, lift the steel down piece by piece. So they really did an awesome job, and it all happened quickly. It was quite a great show to watch, and we saw a number of people out over those couple weekends watching us do that. So next slide. And then again, this is the new viaduct taking shape. It's pretty awesome. These guys were working and building the foundations while they were underneath the old viaduct. And Now we have put in some precast concrete piers, and steel placement has started from there, where our project meets up with the GLT project. So you're already starting to see new steel up 3 weeks after the demolition. So pretty cool.
I got to call out. Oh, sorry, Jeff. I just got to call out how cool that that left-hand photo is, because not only do you have the new viaduct going up, but you also have the old trolley tracks shown and poking out of the asphalt from streetcars that were probably not running since 75 years ago. So that's quite a great shot of the old and new in that one photo.
Yeah, it really is. So it was just kind of a very great visual type of activity going on. So much of our work is either down in a valley where people can't see it, or is underground where we're doing drainage and other things. This is certainly the here, and where the viaduct goes over the Boston Engine Terminal, some of the most visually stunning parts of our job. Next. And then this is our friends at the Zinc Apartments go and take photos for us occasionally. So again, this shows how that piece is coming together and looking toward the Leachmere Station. And then I think the next slide, Terry, is that take us looking the opposite direction. Yeah, so that is looking toward the brick bottom condominiums there, are there in the tan, and then looking up to Washington Street. And then you can see where the we got a full basically the flyover takes you toward Union Square. So this is where that split is, and a lot of elevated work. Our viaducts or our viaduct is anywhere from really looking well developed, like you see the concrete section of the viaduct on the right, to just being steel and starting to put deck pans on and starting to do the rebar work, the very early stages of the deck. So it's quite a span of work, all stages of development for that.
And just before you go on, Jeff, Stefan, this is where a lot of the track switching that I said this area has that significant amount, because this is where things, a train leaving Leachmere would branch either to Union or to Medford, or head to where it can head into the VMF facility for storage and maintenance. So, and this is the area where I was mentioning we will have tail storage if we need to activate Leachmere, say, before any other station. So,
excellent.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
Yeah, please. And then this is just an overlay. I know it's a little busy, but this kind of shows there were a couple large, I think one was a distillery, and then there was another building on the site where the vehicle maintenance facilities is built. The bigger box kind of shows an overlay, and you can see how all the lines that show the tracks, where the tracks will feed into this. So you can go through the building and then you'll basically loop out. And then the smaller box is a transportation building, which will be administrative offices, basically support for that vehicle maintenance facility. And then just a note, the building, you see a little bit of the roof on the far left, that is where our offices are located. So again, MBTA did a good job of getting us space real close to the work. So Terry, why don't you go ahead to the next slide now? We'll see. That's a nice aerial view of the roof starting to go on to the vehicle maintenance facility. And then you can start to see the gantry poles that are up. And even next month, I believe we're going to start to lay tracks. So we're going to start to put the track bed, and you'll start to see how the track will feed into that maintenance facility. So that work is really advancing well on that. We got a huge retaining wall. You can see that in this photo that goes around the whole facility. We've had to build that up. I think that whole area is built up close to 10 feet. Again, a tremendous amount of drainage that had to occur in advance, and again, like I said, the wall that goes around it. So it's again a lot of probably the most amount of construction workers on the project are at this location. Terry, go ahead. I think we got with the transportation building. You can see again examples of the retaining wall that goes around, how big that is, and then interior work is now going on in the transportation building there on the bottom right, and that just the picture on the bottom left is just kind of shows again how you know how trains will enter that that facility. So Terry, I think the rest of the slides are wall related. Okay, we got some interior here of the transportation building. So again,
Yeah.
so I think we skip the wall stuff, Stefan, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
And
Yep, that's perfectly fine. Yep.
So why don't we see if committee members have any questions that they haven't brought up? And then I have one question from the public at the end, if it's okay. But I think this has been terrific, especially for folks on the committee that are not that familiar with the project. It gives them a really good introduction of it at a key point in time.
It's 6:30, guys.
Absolutely
Yeah,
amazing.
Yep. Believe it or not, I've finished with all my questions. So Wig, you can go right ahead and we can
Well, let's see
wrap
if
it up after you.
let's see if anyone else on the committee has a question. Okay. No, go ahead.
No, I had a couple more slides because I think Stefan, or it might have been you, Wig, sent me that there may be questions about tree planting and
Yeah,
tree
that would be
removal.
terrific. That's what I want to
Exactly.
ask about at the
Yeah.
end, but not take too much time.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much time with it, but it was quite devastating that the trees needed to be removed from the rail corridor, and people were extremely upset. I mean, their views out their windows just were gone, and we certainly felt it. Marty, Jeff, and I deal with the public interface, but there's a reason the T has found trees in rail corridors and light rail is a really tough impact. And I have some pictures here, just real quick ones. On our D branch line,
Right.
we're constantly battling trees falling into the catenary line. And if you look at the picture on the left, you can see people being evacuated out of the vehicles. One thing we want to try to avoid that on the GLX line, because these folks are at grade walking off the train. People would have to travel quite a difference in the corridor to get up to street level. So just it was unfortunate that the trees had to be removed, but I don't want to give anyone false hope that we're going to be planting trees along the rail corridor.
Yeah. So to that point, if I could, how will the transition? I mean, right now this project is somewhat sequestered, right? It's a design build project.
Correct.
Within a contained effort intentionally to make it efficient. And then at some point, the right of way, I assume, gets handed back over to state agencies or the city of Somerville or whoever is going to end up with permanent kind of jurisdiction and oversight. Can you just talk about that for a couple seconds?
Sure. The MBTA is the owner of the rail corridor, and we're actually we will have jurisdiction, and we share jurisdiction with MassDOT's highway division, because all the bridges are part of MassDOT's bridge programs. They're the owner of the bridges that go over the rail. Now, the Washington Street Underpass, that bridge is actually owned by the MBTA because our vehicles travel on top of it.
Yep.
So there's an interconnection there. Same with like the developers of Cambridge Crossing and the city of Cambridge. The community path is going to land in a combination of the developer's property, what will be conveyed to the city. So there's a lot of coordination of those elements. Those issues certainly have not been totally ironed out, and they're really something the MBTA will do outside of the present GLX scope.
Right.
But they are certainly issues that are on the table that will need to be discussed.
Okay, and specifically with regard to replanting, I think it's easy for either side to take an extreme. I mean, you've got the D line basically in the Olmsted parkways, and
Right.
And so the Olmsted design really takes precedent there, and certainly anybody can go there any weekend or any weekday and see what an issue it is for the Green Line, but also what an amazing asset it is for Longwood medical area and all the folks there. So I'm hoping that we can bring a couple of you to maybe talk with the Urban Forestry Committee in Somerville. It's a citizen staffed committee. There's a lot of expertise on the committee, but the city also has a staff, and the city has a full-time forestry expert who's part of that committee.
I believe I've met her. She actually, I think she has a doctorate in arbistry or.
Somerville's the densest city in the Commonwealth. Chelsea is close, and it also has the most highway pollution and the most vehicle travel of both commuter rail and regional highway traffic. So, there's a juxtaposition of regional and local issues. But how would we arrange a visit to the Urban Forestry Committee so those folks can at least have a chat with you?
Be glad to meet with them. I mean, from the MBTA's perspective of the stations and any areas within our right-of-way, we are, by this project, we're prescriptive with like a meadow grass and low growth shrubbery, because we have issues at our stations where we don't want to block any view of an entrance of a station, as well as we need things that are low maintenance that the MBTA maintains. Now, after GLX is completed, certainly a dialogue with the MBTA can be undertaken about other areas. I know a perfect example, the city of Somerville at the Broadway Bridge and Boston Ave area. There's small areas where, it's been suggested there be some edging shrubbery or something like that. That's all kind of being worked out in landscape plans and alike, but I'm glad to meet with them, Wig, and discuss it.
Yeah, so I think that would be the best way to do it, not to really bog this regional committee down in it.
Yeah.
So should I get in touch with you specifically, or?
Yeah, get in touch with me, and I'll talk with the folks at the MBTA and see where it is. But the only thing I want to make sure everyone understands, we have no plans of planting any trees along the right of way or anywhere it could be an impact to service. So I just, that there's
Yeah,
been some,
but this isn't really the place to
Yep.
to
Yeah,
go over that.
I hate to say it, but we're beyond even the buffer that we had beyond our buffer
sorry.
for time.
Right.
All right.
I'm really sorry, but we really have to move on to the rest of the
All right.
committee business. But I gotta say first, Martin, Jeff, Terrence, Terry, Marty, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you
Pleasure.
especially for staying
Oh.
so much over time and all the extra input.
Yep.
I'm so sorry to have to cut you off, but I've got to make sure
Not a
that we cover the rest of our committee meetings. Please consider us a resource to call on if we can facilitate between members of the public in ways that the MBTA outreach isn't doing. I hope this is
Certainly.
the beginning of a working relationship that continues on in the future.
Good.
Well, one thing just oh, thanks, Jeff. Just one thing in the future, as we bring GLX online, we're certainly gonna need all the support on getting information out to folks on what they should expect and need to. So thank you for having us. Glad to come back, and
thank you very much for all your work.
Yep. Thank you.
Keep in touch.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all. Great presentation. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank
real
you.
quick, I'm going to jump right ahead and take us to the most pressing issue that we have. And first of all, can people see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Len brought this up to be voted, and I want to make sure that we give the next few minutes to this because this was a continuation from a previous meeting. Len, do you want to take it from here?
Sure, and we don't have to approve the letter as it is. I mean, this is a draft. I mean, it's more the sentiment behind the letter. And so if it is something that we do want to, I'm unmuted, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
We
we
can
can
hear
hear
you.
No problem. I was seeing
Yep,
another screen
okay.
that was showing. I was seeing another screen that was showing I was muted, but I guess that's your screen, Stefan. Yeah, that's what's going on. I'm seeing your screen. I'm sorry about that. So as long as I just want to see if this is what we want to go along with. I mean, essentially, it's asking the T to forego collecting fares until we work out a means tested fare system. And it's for pretty much, I mean, it's implied pretty much as long as we are in the throes of this pandemic, I mean, where we have a significant number of people who are unemployed involuntarily, so that we can have environment that's relatively free of virus or relatively safe. So that's it pretty much. I mean, and so I guess before reading the letter to anyone or reading parts of the letter to anyone who can't see it, I mean, are there objections to that just in principle?
I have one question just to
Sure.
shape my my thinking.
Sure.
Is your recommendation that fare increases not occur until means testing has been examined or has been examined and implemented in some form?
Well, it's not fare increases. It's more drastic than that. I mean, it's like this: the T started collecting fares again, so it's the resumption of fare collection. I mean, so it's essentially saying, I mean, don't resume collecting fares. I mean, they would have to like say, well, we're going to stop collecting fares. We're going to stop the resumption of collecting fares. You know, and the intention is that the CARES Act can cover this financially, and so I'm not really asking the T to go into a hole, but more so just apply more of the CARES Act to the revenue that you would get if you charge fares. And so
I got that. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure, no problem. With respect to the rest, yeah, fare increases. I mean, that's a whole nother deal. I mean, but I think we will have decided what we're going to do about means testing by the time we're getting around to doing fare increases. So.
Hi, this is Karen. Can you hear me?
Sure
Yep.
can.
Sounds good, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Okay, hi. I'm concerned with means testing only because the T can't do it. It's way too big a problem for the T, and they have been collecting fares. It's only on the buses. I'm on the T every day, so they couldn't collecting fares on the subways as long as you go through a turnstile. It's only on the Green Line where you do surface boarding and the buses. I actually I propose a counter proposal that they actually reduce the fares on the buses somehow. And I don't have I think they charge too much for the buses. I do think most of the people that have to go to work are on the buses. And I agree with Len, something should be done. However, I don't think this proposal will fly.
Well,
I don't have a counter proposal.
That's fine. No, well, I mean, I would say, I would say let the T or the FMCB or whomever make that counter proposal, and so yeah, I think the likelihood that this will happen is slim, but it does take a position saying that we really would like to see some break given to the riders, given that everyone's undergoing a lot of financial duress, or most significant number of the riders, significant amount of the ridership is, and I say that without any documentation. That's why I use some pretty undefined or pretty nebulous words. Like our perception. But I feel pretty confident that the perception is right. But nonetheless, I'm not implying that I've done any research that I would footnote anything in here, but it's more so to say that if we have the money in the CARES Act, to support not charging for the T, then let's apply it to that. And so
I think
Lynn,
if you're going to say that, you have to document that. You have to say how much money is in the CARES Act. It can't be hand waving.
Well, it can be. It doesn't matter whether the hand waving is effective or not. And so I forget how much is in the CARES Act. I can find that. I'm not even sure how much I think I can find some figures on the amount of money that the T is collecting from fares. And what they would have to replace with that. But I don't think that's really necessary in terms of making the case for it, because I think, as you said, at best we'll get a counter proposal. At worst it'll be like, well, it's nice of you all to ask for that, But
Len, quick question: Are you looking for a motion to approve this, or are we going to put this back to committee for more discussion or refinement? I'm not sure if we.
Well, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the notion of a letter like this, and at this point,
I'll make that motion. I'll make a motion to approve a letter of this type of substance.
Stefan,
I think the content of this is good.
Before we vote, can I bring up one point?
Please.
Len, thanks for drafting a letter. I think it's overall pretty good. I think I think you mentioned this, that it's pretty aggressive. I think the one thing that concerns me is asking for fares to be discontinued until the means testing is in place. I view that as months or perhaps even years away. I would argue or ask for something that's softer, something that says discontinuance until the state of emergency is lifted, or something along the lines of until the pandemic is over, as opposed to tying the end to means testing.
Well, I hear you, and look, I agree. It's very aggressive. And essentially, what I asked them to do was to accelerate the work that they're doing on means testing, because they have done a significant amount of work on it, including those workshops that we discussed at the last meeting. So I think if they did really put the pedal to the metal on it, they could come up with a system for means testing. It wouldn't be the final system, almost under any scenario, you do an iteration of it and then you improve on it. But at least they will have deployed something along those lines that will tell the public that we're trying to give the people who are hurting the most, some kind of a break on it. And I guess the reason I am fine with being aggressive on this is that if I thought that these things were going to be accepted whole hog, then I would present a different pig. But I really do see this as an opening position, and then the T kind of negotiates with itself on what it's going to do about it. And I guess the other question too is to the extent that this statement is shopped around a bit, and is it still something that you like to support if it's shopped around? By shopped around, I mean like taking it to people on the Joint Committee on Transportation. And one more thing I'll say is that it's not really clear that it would be useful for it to go to the FMCB right away, because when I look on their schedule, I don't see a meeting for them until the 24th of August. And I guess as I think about it, it's not that far away. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a long ways away. I guess it's not that long away. And so I pulled back from that. I guess I'll go to me first, along with other people. So that's it. Thank you.
Any further discussion before we move on to an abbreviated committee reports and old and new business? Hopefully we can squeeze it in.
Well, I mean, I think the procedure though is that you make a motion, it's seconded, you then allow for more discussion, and then you vote. So we're not assuming that this is the end, that this has been approved by the committee at this point.
Oh no, I apologize. I thought that you were considering reworking this, but yeah, certainly. I had already made a motion to approve such a letter with this type of content. That's such a non-committal motion, but there you have it. Do I have a second for that motion?
Well, this is Wig. I'll second it, especially for discussion. I think the art is going to be in how, and Len has already foretold this, but in what the next steps are to get it to something that may see the light of day for real.
Yeah.
Shall we call a vote on approving the substance of this letter, but not necessarily the exact wording of this letter?
Stefan, can you clarify? Are you saying we're going to approve the quote unquote shopping around, or are you saying we're quote unquote approve something for issuance at this point?
I guess I will have to defer to Len, and we can retract those motions.
What I'm really looking for is that if we are in favor of this kind of letter, then I will continue working on it, we'll do this through email, with the intention of trying to have something that I can send to folks next week or by the end of next week. But if the group doesn't want to do this, then I'm not going to work on it anymore. And that's not out of spite or anything, but it's more like, rather than refining it and putting effort into refining it, if the group doesn't want to do something like this, then it would be pointless. So essentially, I just wanted to see if the group will approve something like this. I'll continue working on it.
Do we need to vote in that case if it's going to be with continued work, or do we just ask now for any concerns or dissents? I'm not sure about Robert's Rules of Order in a case like this.
Well,
there's more work to be done.
My sense is Len wants to make sure that it's worth continuing to work on it.
Exactly.
That it's not a dead end.
Right. Because if folks don't want to do it, then I'm not going to work on it anymore. And I say that if my tone doesn't sound graceful, forgive me for that. I'm fine with not doing it. I can advocate for myself, and others for this. And so this is my only avenue to do it. And so I was just like, okay, it didn't work. This is not something the group wants to do. But if you do, then I will continue working on this to get to a better point in it. So,
okay.
I think it's a good time to be doing something like this, Len.
We lost you, Amy.
You muted yourself, Amy.
Amy, we heard you for a moment, but then we lost you.
Yeah, I think she's back. Oh, you just.
Oh, you're on for a second.
Okay, I'm back.
Yep.
That's good.
I just want to say, Len, that I like this idea very, very much. I think the timing is actually pretty good. I would refine it though, because right now, as Karen pointed out, it was the buses that they weren't collecting on. And I guess I haven't been above ground on the green line, but I guess above ground on the green line. I think I would refine it then, and then just to ask them to go back to that. And then I feel that this is a perfect timing for a letter like this.
How about if I make a motion to approve of Len's continued work on this?
I'll second the motion.
Let's take a vote. Can I hear all in favor of giving support to Len for continued work on this initiative?
Aye.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposed.
This is
Len.
Karen.
Abstain.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Karen.
No, and wait a minute, wait. I'm
ahead,
going to abstain. I'm going to abstain.
Okay, got that. I heard one abstention, but otherwise all in favor of Len's continued work on this. So thank you. Len.
Len also abstained.
I'm sorry, Len abstained.
Let the minutes show
Thank you.
that Len abstained too.
No, I did not.
Got
No.
Oh, you didn't? I thought you did.
not.
I thought I heard you do.
No, I was signaling to Stefan that he need to ask for extensions.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I did forget to ask for abstentions. Thank you.
Nice going there, Brian. I mean, with the
Try to get you in
dagger.
trouble.
With the dagger. Oh my goodness.
Okay, quick time check. I'm going to ask, since I haven't seen any additional people join, I have one statement to read for public comment, just to read it into the record. Barry, I'm just asking, do you have any public comment to make at the tail end?
I do.
Okay, I will make time for you, Len. And Barry, speak up if you're able. I can unmute you. Go ahead, Barry, you can talk now.
Okay, a question I wasn't able to ask before. Can you characterize the rehabilitation of the Leachmere Viaduct, the existing viaduct?
Characterized in what way?
How are they going to rehabilitate it?
Oh,
Can we answer that question for you at the next meeting, Barry?
Feel free.
Okay, cool. Because I can gather more information between now and then and make a more detailed answer if you'd like.
Good.
As part of the presentation of the operations subcommittee next month. Sorry, in September. We're not meeting next month.
I just want to say, I think that's a great question. It's a historic viaduct, and so I would be interested to know, how they can kind of fix it up structurally, but also maybe add a little bit of lighting or whatever to honor the historic nature of it. So thank you, Barry.
Yeah, I'll take that as a to-do item for the subcommittee or on my own to gather more information, and I'll present it formally for you in September, Barry. Sound good?
Thank you.
Okay, cool. I'm going to read one quick public comment that came in via YouTube, just to put it on record. Tori.
Antonino.
Yes, my eye just went right off of it. Tori Antonino wrote in saying, asking, would Terry come meet with the Somerville Urban Forestry Committee at our August meeting so the committee can better understand the reforesting plan? Tori Antonino at me.com. It sounds like we are going to cover that outreach to them externally. And it sounds like Wig, are you able to facilitate that between?
Yeah, I'll get in touch with Terry as we talked.
That sounds great. We're coming up on 7 o'clock and not having done any reports from the subcommittee. I'm wondering if anyone wants to stay over and do a abbreviated presentation, or should we just table the subcommittee reports until September?
Either way, it's okay with me.
Table.
Any strong feelings in either direction? I've heard
Table.
Either way, on a table.
Table. We won't have another meeting next month, so it's not like we're going to be stacked, you know. So.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I took copious notes, but I agree. Nothing was pressing that needs to be aired tonight. Very quick before we wrap up, was there any old business, new business, or any reports on external meetings?
It can wait.
No, this is Karen. The only thing I'd like to remind people of is that the E-line will be shut down most of August, so there will be shuttle buses, and also the 39 will be free from August 2nd to August 29th.
Karen, I would love to hear a report, formal or informal, when we meet again in the subcommittee in the third week of September, or second week of September. Whatever the next operations subcommittee is in September, I'd love to hear from you on the details of that construction.
I will be on it probably every day, so I will tell you in detail. I think there's also there's also on the MBTA website, I think it's GLE. I think it's mbta.com, GLE, and the whole presentation that they gave us on the 23rd, last Thursday, I guess it was, on a Zoom meeting. Anyway, it's all there, but I will report back as a participant.
Thank you very much. And I have to acknowledge and apologize to Bradley from CTPS, who's joining us for the first time, and I don't think had an opportunity to get even a word in, but I want to acknowledge you and thank you for being here, Bradley. It's much appreciated. And do you want to say anything quick or just?
Thank you, everyone. I learned a lot in the Green Line presentation. I live in West Somerville, not too far from the Lowell Line tracks. So this is in my neighborhood in addition to a professional interest of mine. So thank you, everyone, for your time. As you all know, if you have questions that CTPS might be able to answer, let me know. If I don't know the answer off the top of my head, I can ask my colleagues. I'm sure many of you know my colleagues, Stephen Andrews, Jonathan Belcher, and others. So we're here for you as a resource.
Thank you, as always. Yeah, we appreciate all the work you guys do, and thank you for being the representative for tonight.
So I have a question that he won't be able to answer from the public.
Yep, go ahead, Len.
I was wondering if the MBTA has shared anything with you, the Right Oversight Committee, about efforts to improve the air quality in the facilities. For example, increasing air exchange rates, improving return air filtration, air filtration, etc., in stations and on trains. And other than local news reporting a new MBTA policy statement about keeping bus windows open, I can't find any statements from them on indoor air quality. I looked around, I just went through all of the presentations to FMCB. I didn't see anything. Is anyone aware of anything with respect to that? Okay, I'll ask around some more. Bradley, can you help?
I'm sorry, I've not heard anything about that. I'd have to think about who would be the best person to ask that question to.
Well, if you do come up with someone, then let me know, and I'll do the legwork on it. I was trying to think of that too. I was going to ask Dave, about buses, but they're leaving the windows open. But he might know. Hey, Wolfgang.
No, they're not. They're not leaving the windows open. Every once in a while, the rear skylight will be open, but not on every bus.
All right. Okay.
Well, I think you're right, Len, that Bill Wolfgang, being the director of design, procurement, vehicle engineering, would probably know better than anyone if there is a standard to be followed.
I can pretty much guarantee that they don't know what the airflow is in the vehicles.
Yes.
You really need a technical environmental engineer to do that analysis.
Right.
There's probably turbulent flow within the vehicles. I have been riding the buses all along a little bit. There's almost certainly virus in the particles in the air.
And I think this is also getting at stations too.
Yes.
So I think she was interested in everything really that pedestrian or
it would take somebody like John Durant and Nalakshi Huda's group at Tufts to analyze that. Maybe someone at MIT. Tufts is the only place that does environmental engineering and environmental epidemiology at that level of air pollution detail.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for asking, Len. Any final things to bring up before we adjourn? Am I missing anything? We've tabled the subcommittee reports. I think that was the only thing we tabled outright.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. I don't think we need to vote on that, do we?
No, but have a nice
Okay.
August, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so no meetings in August unless you hear from us in email about an informal field trip to the GLX to be determined, headed by Wig if he's still able and willing.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I'm certainly happy to do whatever you want there. I think the issue is what would be the most comfortable time and how much time.
Yep, and then how we facilitate getting there and getting around while still being socially distant. So, but to be determined. Look for
It's not
emails from
that
us.
long. You know, you can walk most of it.
Sounds good. So I'm ready to stop the YouTube stream and end the meeting.
Hi,
Thank
guys.
you, everybody.
So long. Bye-bye.
Thanks
Bye
all.
for now.
Thank you.